Okay.
Chair Robbins, we may begin.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Insurance Benefits Alleged Committee for Wednesday, October 6th, 2021.
Thank you. So at this time, since this meeting is being conducted virtually, I will go ahead and do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Mr. Pryor,
I'm here.
Mr. Knox, Ms. Gray,
Yes, good morning, everybody.
good morning, Mr. Santos,
Present.
Mr. Oakham,
Yes, I'm here. Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Moore, Mr. Kehoe.
Here.
Great, thank you.
Present for Kehoe.
Thank you, Mr. Ms. Zapanta, Chair Bernstein.
I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, and Chair Robbins.
I am present.
Great. Staff participating in the meeting includes CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEO JJ Popovich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu, Cassandra Smith and Kathy Megida from the Retiree Healthcare Division. Consultants include Stephen Murphy, Paul Sadro, Richard Ward, Michael Cizzetto, and Stephanie Messier from Siegel. Trustees, please use the Zoom chat option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mics until you're ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much. The first item up is item 1A, approval of the minutes of the September 1st, 2021 committee meeting. Need a
So
motion.
moved. So moved.
Second,
I'll be an abstention because I was not there. All those in favor?
Oh,
Or do you want to call the roll? You want to
Yeah,
call?
yes, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Ms. Gray,
aye.
Mr. Oakham,
aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
and Chair Bernstein, you're an abstention. The motion passes with 3 yeses and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. We're on item 2, public comment. Now's the time for anyone from the public who wants to address the committee. I don't have anybody. Is there anything, Bonnie?
No, not at this time.
All right. Item 3A, recommendation by Mr. Liu. These are action items that the committee recommend the board authorize a 1-year extension on the current contract. Do you want to do them both at once or one at a time? How do you want to handle this, Bonnie?
Barry, you can go ahead and update the trustees on that recommendation, and we can go ahead and move for approval.
Go ahead, Barry.
Yes, good morning, Chair Robbins and committee trustees. I think you can handle this as one item if the committee wishes to recommend both contracts and just kind of do it in one motion.
May I speak?
Yeah, are there any questions?
I was just going to say that handling it as one items would be correct because Duche always works with Ackler when we're in DC. They seem to, I don't know, one is a subset of the other. Is that correct, Mr. Liu?
Well, the first item is for the state lobbyists, so that's Ackler and McHugh. And then the second item is for the federal lobbyists, Williams and Jensen and Shane Doucet.
So the gentleman that's usually in DC with us, what was his name?
Oh, that's Tony Rhoda and also Shane Doucet.
Okay, so is Rhoda part of Williams and Jensen?
Yes, he's part of Williams and Jensen.
All right,
I will move it.
I'll
on that
second it.
recommendation.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? Any other questions?
Just a
Thank you very much.
comment, Chair Robbins.
Sure.
I in support of this. I think we should renew it, but I did note in reading the memo that the contracts their revisions or their renewals, I believe, are up next year. And I just wanted to encourage staff to bring this forward earlier than October of next year in case we do want to put out a new RFP. But I'm in support of this motion. I just think an October timeline would tie our hands next year.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bernstein. And just a clarification, um, this will be the last time that we will be renewing the contract. So we will renew them for next year. But I think next year, probably around June or July, I would anticipate us bringing an RFP since we won't be able to renew it again next year.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Go ahead and please, Bonnie, you want to call the roll?
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Chair Robbins,
I'm an aye.
the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We're on to item 4A, engagement report for September 21. Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Chair Robbins. Just some items of interest for the committee. So the first item is about pandemic haves and have-nots. Certainly, I think the pandemic has revealed some, various inequalities in our society. But interestingly, with 401k balances, everything has pretty much gone up across the board. And most interestingly, there's a record number of workers with balances of at least $1 million that has increased to about 412,000 workers, which is up 84% from last year. Although this represents only about 2% of 401k participants. And then as far as people who've been in a 401k plan for at least 10 years, their balances have crossed the 400,000 threshold for the first time. If you compare this to 10 years ago, people who have been in a plan for at least 10 years had a balance of about $83,000. And then the flip side, of course, is that the pandemic has also, made it harder for people in lower income brackets to save. And the report found that about 51% of adults said that the pandemic make it harder for them to reach their long-term financial goals. And then, concurrent with that, the National Institute of Retirement Security also released a recent report that examined financial ownership by net worth, generation, and race based on data from the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. So they were looking at 3 cohorts: millennials, baby boomers, and Gen X. So for example, with the baby boomers, they found that the top 5% of baby boomers net worth was about covered about 58% of that generation's assets in 2019 compared to 52% in 2004. And then they also found that inequality in asset ownership is consistent across generations. So for example, the top 25% of millennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers own about 3/4 of their generations of financial assets. And then financial asset ownership is also, for example, higher concentrated among white households compared to other households. About white households in all 3 generations owned about 3/4 or more of the financial assets. So some of the solutions to this would include strengthening Social Security, protecting pensions, and also increasing access to plans for low-income workers, as we have seen over the last several years with more and more states, putting forth their state-run IRA programs. The next item is about the Social Security and Medicare Trustees 2021 report. So I think every year we hear about, sort of funding status of the programs. For example, with the OH and Survivors Trust Fund, which pays the retirement and survivor benefits, it's going to go insolvent in 2033. That doesn't mean that it runs out of money. It just means that the reserves become depleted and they'll only be able to pay about 76% of benefits. The Disability Trust Fund would go insolvent in 2057, but it will still be able to pay about 91% of benefits. And if you were to look at the programs together, then they would go insolvent in 2034 and only pay about 78% of benefits. And then on the Medicare side, for example, Part A, it would go insolvent in 2026, but still be able to pay 91% of benefits. And then for Parts B and Part D, those apparently can be financed indefinitely into the future because of the way they're financed from general revenues and beneficiary premiums. The last 2 items deal with a pension reform. So the North Dakota legislature is looking at changing their DB plan to a defined contribution plan to deal with a $1.5 billion unfunded liability. So they're going to be engaging a consultant to look at various options on how to do that. And then the last item is regarding litigation over pension reform in Maryland. So back in 2010, their city council increased the number of years of retirement from 20 to 25 for, I think it was for first responders in order to receive benefits. And so the case just got resolved in the court ruled that the city had the right to change the rules, but you can see how long some of these cases take. For example, in California, the Alameda case took about 7 years to resolve. So some of these pension reform cases definitely take a while to resolve. So that concludes my report. Happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Liu? I'll just make a comment about the Social Security and the Medicare data. On a somewhat regular basis, I'll go to the AARP website because they have some really good information about the financial viability of both. And all of this talk about everything going broke with a certain year is really not a true representation of how things would be. It primarily means they would just go on a pay-as-you-go basis at that point because the surpluses would be used up. But when people talk about them both going broke in 2033 or 2027 or whatever year we're throwing out at this particular point in time, it's really not an accurate portrayal of just how well these systems are operating and are funded. So I always find that interesting because AARP is real quick to try to set the record straight. So any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go to item B, staff activities report for September. Cassandra.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Just real quick, we continue to participate in the Medicare retiree drug subsidy program. For some of those that may not have been with us before, that is a Medicare Part D subsidy that we're able to take advantage of as if we have qualifying prescription drug plans that receive this drug subsidy payment. And so this time we received money from Cigna and Local 1014. So we continue our annual participation program for the county. That's it.
That's it. Any questions for Cassandra? Steve Murphy, you saw
Cassandra,
your
anything?
light up.
Okay. I'll ask
Okay,
you.
no questions?
Oka, Mr. Oka?
Yeah, the only thing, Cassandra, anything going on with you and Kathy and the $1 million limit? Are we pursuing that? Is that off the table? Where are we?
So Siegel has done an updated report based on a meeting that we had with LACERA executive team. And we're working on it, waiting to see if there's any final comments before we finalize the report.
Are we going to get SCIU involved in that?
Mr. Kryman?
Yes, we have made outreach efforts with the SEIU folks. And so we do intend on providing them with information just like we did with the other unions.
Well, based on what our success rate has been with the county, this is becoming a problem and will become a bigger problem down the road. And I don't understand why they can't see that for the minor amount of money it takes to fix the problem.
We continue to work on it, Mr. Oka. We'll let you know once we get everything.
I know you do. It's just very frustrating. Thank you, Sandra and Santos.
The calm before the storm, the two storms that are about to come down. Item C, claims experience. Mr. Murphy. Morning,
Good morning.
Stephen.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today? So again, recognize we've got a limited amount of time before the board meeting begins. First page again is a recap of distribution of enrollment and premium activity by plan. So nothing new there. On this page, again, I want to highlight the charts on the bottom, which is year over year comparison of periods based on a per retiree per month basis. So nominal increase with Anthem at 2.3%, 8.4% increase for Cigna, which again, as we noted previously, is a small and very mature retiree group. And then Kaiser, we're seeing a 7.6% increase. This is different than the most recent report, which is updated. Kaiser updates this information on a quarterly basis. So we'll delve into that information here in a moment. The next exhibit is a quick comparison of the programs affiliated with Anthem. So on a all plan basis, again, 2.9% increase year over year based on a per retiree per month basis. The Anthem plans, the non-Medicare plans, are increasing by about 2.3%. Plans 1 and 2 by themselves, 2.8%. Prudent buyer actually saw a 0.5% decrease compared to the prior year. And Medicare supplement or plan 3 is increasing at about 4.5%. So again, all good trends as we have actually just initiated the renewal activity for 2022-23. So that began a couple weeks ago.
Why is the prudent buyer going? Why is the prudent buyer going down?
It's mostly case mix. It's got about maybe 10% of the non-Medicare enrollment. So it's relatively small group. So again, COVID could be suppression of services or kind of a shift or lapse of time. So we could have a large claim fall off the comparison. So that could be part of that. But again, overall, Anthem looks at the underwriting for the Anthem plans in total. So again, I think we're certainly in a very good position at this point in time. On the next page, with respect to Kaiser utilization.
One quick question.
Yes.
Does Medicare or any of the plans pay for the vaccines, or is the government picking up the cost of the vaccines?
The government picks up the cost of the vaccines. If there is an expense, it's attributed, it's for the administration of the vaccine. And that can vary based on the type of dose, whether it's a single or a 2-dose vaccine.
You know what they're charging for the administration roughly?
I think off the top of my head, a single dose administration fee, I think, is around the $40 mark.
That's why they're pushing so hard. Okay, thank you.
On the Kaiser experience, page 4 of 7, again, this is data through 6/30/2020 compared to the period ending 6/30/2021. And I think if you'll notice on the third line down, the inpatient claims per member per month are up 27%. And that's where the bulk of the activity is driving the overall increase of 7.6% period over period. What's driving that specifically is we've had an increase in the number of large claimants. We've gone from 3 in the prior period to 5. The amount over the pooling point has increased by, it's almost doubled at 1.8 million. It was previously 900,000. And if you just look down, one of the couple lines down is the inpatient days per thousand. That's up 15%. So again, we're talking about some very complex claim activity, and those are the current drivers. One thing to keep in mind, this is the non-Medicare population. The bulk of the enrollment is associated with the Kaiser Senior Advantage plan, but this does give you a snapshot of kind of what's going on for this segment of the population. Next page will highlight the large claim activity, which is we've just detailed will really be a key driver for some of these groups. Cigna, again, the increase in claims above the pooling point of 50% compared to the prior period. And Kaiser actually doubled compared to the prior period. So again, large claims are driving what's going on. In many cases, those are difficult to anticipate and just something we need to weather, and that's why we have the insurance. The next page is rebates. So this is updated again, slight increase period over period with respect to the rebates received through the CVS program, which is affiliated with the Anthem plans. And then the last page of the report will detail the dental and vision experience. So again, we're seeing increases of about 13%, almost 14% on dental and 17% on vision. And this is really still a reflection of kind of the rebound coming out of COVID and basically playing catch up for activity that was missed during the suspension of services during 2020. Any questions about the experience report?
None from my end. Next.
I don't see it on the agenda, but a legislative update. Again, still plenty of activity in Congress with regard to the budget, but I will defer on specifics to the board offsite when we'll have a couple of compliance team members that walk you through kind of what's really driving kind of healthcare legislation and may or may not impact LACERA retirees.
Any questions for Steve on that? Does that conclude your report, Steve?
It does.
Thank you very much. We're on item 5, items for staff review.
I just have one item. Any information regarding the $1 million cap? Any updates will be provided to the committee when it becomes available.
Thank you very much. How about good of the order? You just want to go down the line, Bonnie?
Sure. Mr. Pryor? Ms. Ginsburg?
Good morning, nothing for the group.
Thank you, Ms. Gray.
Morning.
Mr. Santos? You're muted, Mr. Santos.
Good morning. Nothing, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Holcomb?
Yeah, the only thing I have, I don't know if you saw, but LeVar Burton is our new Grand Marshal for this year's Tournament of Roses Parade. And I think it's a great choice, and he will, you know, be a very active Grand Marshal based on what I've heard. So we're excited about that. This is Pasadena talk, guys. So I just want to make everybody aware who's outside of Pasadena.
Nice to get the parade back.
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Nothing to add.
Mr. Kehoe?
Nothing on my end.
Mr. Harris?
Nothing on my end, thanks.
Mr. Bernstein?
We will start the BOR at 9 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for a good IBL meeting.
Thank you. JJ, Laura, Lewis, or Santos?
Nothing on my end. Just good morning, everyone.
Great. And Chair Robbins?
I have nothing. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I'll second, we're adjourned.